and welcome into the Gaelic Gridiron podcast, a American football show for fans of all shapes, sizes, creeds, religions, and teams, dedicated to the fans by the fans, coming to you after another wild NFL weekend. Week 12 is almost in the books. Jimmy English and Kevin Kelly. No twist. He's a bit of a sore voice, so he declined to come on. So he's here in spirit, Kev. We'll have to keep things. At least we won't be drawn off on a tangent anyway without good old Twisty. But we are thinking of him. We do miss him, and we hope to have him back next week for the next podcast. Kev, we had our watch party yesterday in Drogheda. It was good of you to make the trek down, and good to see you. I can't actually remember the last time that myself and yourself had a pint together. I think it might have been the college game back in August. Was the last time I actually saw you in person. So, but how was the head this morning?
Yeah, not too bad. I was driving myself, so was only on the non-alcoholics, and I think we were at the Steelers watch party. We had that one, and
God, completely forgot about that. Yeah, that just shows you how much has gone on since.
Yeah, no, it's been a mad few weeks, and even like that early window yesterday really gave some really interesting games to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like almost every NFL weekend now has given us major talking points and explosive plays, and that's the joy of having Red Zone on and not having your own team's game to focus on. You had the Vikings game on your phone on the slide, but I mean, just so much going on in those early windows and so much madness. I mean, you look at the Chiefs narrowly escaping victory with victory over the Panthers. The Panthers were really pushing them towards the end. Bryce Young had a fantastic drive down as time kind of wound out within 2 minutes to push the Chiefs to the brink, but they found themselves another get out of jail free card with Patrick Mahomes' legs and managed to fight on to live another day.
Yeah, here's the thing, and you look at the one score games. It's like if you were to swap the results of every one score game up to this point, the Chiefs would be one of the worst teams in the league right now. So the Chiefs are coming out with these wins, and albeit they beat the Ravens by one score. They've won some really tight games against good teams, but
they barely survived the Broncos with that. They had the blocked field goal in the last second. I mean, they literally got away with it there, and you kind of feel like they really got away with one last night as well.
Yeah, in a way, but look, I think you give the ball to Patrick Mahomes any time with any time really and space to go down the field, he's gonna probably get pretty close to kicking distance. And I know now they've lost Harrison Butker, so it's not as much of a guarantee as it used to be. But they still put themselves in the position to kick. I mean, look, they were at the 12, 13, like they were right on the goal line there for that kick, so it was pretty much a given. But I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, I look at the Vikings the way they're the same situation. Like we get left in these one score games, but obviously nobody talks about it the same way because we haven't won 2 Super Bowls in a row. But it's just funny how when you look at one team as winning one score games against the Panthers and ourselves, and look, I think we'll talk about it a bit later, but the Packers beating the 49ers, it's like great win for the Packers, but we also blew the 49ers out, and so you have to wonder, is just like week to week, there's really, this year I feel like there's been very little consistency.
There's no real telling what's going to happen week to week, though, is there? I mean, we were watching that Panthers game. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Bryce Young playing a fantastic game, throwing confident, accurate passes. Adam Thielen had a couple of big, massive chunk gains to get the ball into scoring distance. And then Chuba Hubbard is under the radar, one of the best running backs in the league, I think, this season. And it's great that Bryce Young has him to rely on. But could you just imagine and picture for a second if the Panthers defense had kind of held their nerve a little bit with less than 2 minutes to go? It would have been the upset of the century as far as I'm concerned. Given granted the Chiefs have struggled a little bit, they haven't been themselves, but I think the way things have been going, if the Panthers had beaten the Chiefs, it would have been carnage, chaos.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time as they obviously suffered their first loss last week. There could have been a bit of hangover. There probably was a bit of hangover in the building. Whereas everyone's been saying it is the Chiefs losing one game during the season, it's no big deal. It's only a regular season game. But it's like, look at the way they reacted after the field goal block against the Broncos. Like, they acted like it was the
Yeah,
Super Bowl final.
yeah.
So you just, I find it hard to comment on the Chiefs at the minute because they're kind of all over the place. Like,
Hmm.
there's
No
very little
consistency.
consistent. There is no consistency with the Chiefs right now, and as much as they have the talent there to do it, I don't think that when they really come up against a team that's gonna really gonna push them, I think they're gonna really struggle.
Talking about close finishes and wacky games, and another game that we got to watch at the watch party yesterday was the Cowboys and the Commanders. Cowboys getting a bit of an upset win there themselves, and that was an absolutely wild finish as well. Kevion Turpin's 99 yard touchdown off a
After
off a kick
dropping it,
off a
after
kick
drop,
return after dropping the ball, casually picking it up and just one step spin and gone. That has to be a contender for play of the year right there.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely up there, but I mean, look, I think everyone's going to always go for the Saquon Barkley backwards jump
Yes.
over the
Yeah.
defender. Like that's going to be play of the year. Like I don't think that will not be talked about for years to come. To be honest, like they even added it to Madden, so you have to look at plays like that. But look, that game, that Cowboys game, again we said it, and I think we'll say it again. Just the consistency and the kind of that just where the Commanders are, it's like there's not a lot of consistency right now, and I think they might have just burned the candle from both ends a little bit
Yeah.
too much. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, was just like the whole like being in the practice facility at 4 a.m. and obviously I think you mentioned it at the party yesterday, is like you're trying to set a new standard and you're trying to like create a new culture there. But I think that you can kind of be overzealous in that
Mm.
situation. I think maybe Jaden Daniels, as a rookie, maybe just he's making a rookie mistake. That these things happen, but that's down to the coaches there to say, here, listen, you need to actually focus on your recovery more than you're getting into the practice facility at 4 and 5 a.m.
I think I read this morning that there was something like a 30 points scored in the space of 3 minutes in the fourth quarter yesterday between the Cowboys and the Commanders. And it's a bit of a surprise that the Cowboys were able to muster that many points with a relative unknown a quarterback in the form of Cooper Rush. And we kind of had this discussion yesterday around Dak Prescott and whether there is actually a future for him in Dallas after the season. I know he has that big contract, but if the Cowboys are able to beat, now granted that the Commanders have been struggling as of late, they lost the game to the Steelers, and they lost this one to the Cowboys, but is there any kind of scope there for the Cowboys moving on from Dak Prescott in 2025, and maybe not Cooper Rush, but trying to get a quarterback from elsewhere. Daniel Jones, perhaps.
Yeah, I personally don't see that happening. I still think you've only just paid Dak. It's not like
Mm,
Dak's on his second or third year of a 4 or 5 year contract. He's on the first year of a brand new contract. If anything, Mike McCarthy is going to be the one that really bites the bullet here, and I don't think that that's the wrong decision. I think that Dak is still a really good quarterback. I think that he was not given the opportunity, just the way I see it. Like I know that the Giants obviously got absolutely blown out this weekend, but
mm.
they changed their quarterback and they didn't have any sign of life.
No,
Just like they've had
I
up
don't.
to
I
this
don't think
point.
they were. I don't think they were even trying though. You could kind of see that there was they've given up the ghost.
But like whether they were given, like I mean, I don't think any player in the NFL really steps on the field and doesn't give, at least for the first quarter, like give it
Mm,
like a good 99 100% effort. Like I just don't see that happening. And I think just to the same thing is like the 49ers have struggled this year, and you take Brock Purdy out of the situation, it didn't get any better. It didn't get
no,
any. It didn't. It was very much the same kind of performance.
it was a whole team. Like I don't think you can pin that one on Brandon Allen though. That was a whole
Oh
team.
no,
Apart from there was flashes. There was a good touchdown to Kittle in the back of the end zone. And the interception wasn't his fault, but I think overall the Niners just didn't come to play against the Packers really.
yeah, I think just the Packers are a good team. Look,
Yeah,
that
very good team.
I'll be really interested. The next couple of weeks in the NFC North are going to be really, really interesting with a lot of NFC North matchups coming up. It's going to be really interesting to see which way they go because the Packers have to play the Lions again. We have to play the Lions again. We still have to play the Bears again. Like, and we have to play. I think, yeah, and then the Lions and the Packers have to play again. So like, them games on their own are going to be kind of season telling a little bit. I think for a lot of teams.
Just I want to talk about the Vikings and the Bears game and get your thoughts there as a Vikings fan. I have promised not to go off on a tangent about the Steelers game. I'm putting the Browns and Steelers game behind me. We're moving on. We're focusing on Cincinnati this weekend. But just to go back to the Commanders and the Cowboys game, because for me that was I love watching chaos when it's not my own team. And there's been a couple of weekends where the witching hours, as Scott Hansen calls it, has just been bonkers. And just watching that game yesterday, there was the kick return first of all, which if you haven't seen that video, go and watch. Do yourself a favor; it'll blow your mind. Then the Commanders scored, missed the field goal. Austin Seibert missed the field goal, and then I think there was a kick that they went to onside kick it, and the Cowboys grabbed it and scored a touchdown. I mean, it was just bananas. Like that, I think that's what makes the NFL so exciting for when you're a neutral supporter in particular.
Yeah, no, look, the yesterday was absolute carnage. Even that game with the Texans and the Titans, like that was back and forth throughout the
Yeah,
whole game, and just that whole kind of that window, that first window, really just like kind of encapsulated what the NFL. And I think like for most like NFL fans who like especially in Ireland and England, like that's what really like they're the days where we point to people who don't really understand it and
yeah.
don't get it, and we're like, look,
This is why we
this.
watch it.
Exactly. Look at the big swings. Now, like obviously yourself and the lads all there seeing like how in I was on the Vikings. Like I was shaking at some point. I was like I couldn't believe what I was watching. We were up by 11 points with under 2 minutes to go and somehow get forced to overtime. So, it's moments like that, it's weekends like that that really make you think like or like that's why I watch the NFL.
And why do you think the Vikings struggled so much against the Bears in the last couple of minutes? Was it lack of playmaking, or what was kind of the key there, do you reckon?
I don't know. I really, the thing is, like, the defense has been so solid all year. That's what really frustrated me is that, like, they were leaving gaping holes in the secondary. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. And there was no coverage on a Dunze. There was no coverage on DJ Moore. Like, I didn't understand how they were getting downfield and being so open with 2 minutes to go. It just doesn't make sense. So, look, I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, I nearly woke up feeling hungover from thinking about the game because it was that like it's one of those games that you can't even nearly be happy about winning. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely was driving home and I was just like, I nearly would have preferred to lose. Like genuinely, like it was like one of those type of situations because it was like you can't even be happy about the win.
And Justin Jefferson kind of disappeared as well, didn't he? He had a very, very quiet day. Jordan Addison emerged as Sam Darnold, not Sam, yeah, Sam Darnold's top target,
Yeah, yeah.
which is
Listen, man.
curious.
I'm not sure if you might not have seen it, but his post game interview, Jefferson was like, "Look, it's either I go off and have myself a day, or the rest of the team goes off and has themselves a day." And Addison goes for 100 and what was it, like 180 yards or 160 yards. He goes for a big day, a touchdown. Then you have TJ Hawkinson going for 114 yards, also having a massive day. But Justin Jefferson, when you need him in the fourth quarter, in overtime, he makes a critical catch to bring it to midfield on a second, and I think it was second and 13 or second and 14, or second
Mm.
and long anyway. So it, whether he has a massive game or not, it's those pivotal plays that bring you to where you need to be to win a game, and that's what he does. That's what he's always done. It was the 4th and 18 against the Bills last year. He goes up and one hands, or 2 years ago, he one hands it. It, you cannot put a value on a player like that.
The NFC is about to get very interesting because the Packers are looking great now, guaranteed. Granted that the Niners didn't have their starting quarterback and they played quite poorly, but the Packers, Jordan Love is a quiet contender for MVP. I think the way he's been playing this year. I mean,
He throws too
he
many picks though.
he
Like
distributed the ball very well yesterday. He hit his receivers. Josh Jacobs had a great game with 3 touchdowns. So I think the Packers, in my mind, are definitely a contender in the NFC, as are the Eagles, absolutely steamrolling the Rams in Los Angeles. I watched some of the highlights from that game. Saquon Barkley is just a different animal altogether, isn't he?
like it's not even close. I kind of was putting him and Derrick Henry in a similar kind of like area, but I don't even think it's close at this point. He and like I think as well, like you have to give it up for the offensive line that the
Mm,
Eagles have there. It's like, any running back, like the best running backs in the world can have a terrible O line and do nothing with it. So it's like you have to really give it up for the Eagles to be able to give him the opportunity to like open those gaps. Now, obviously, he still has to go and find them, and he still has to take them. But they're like the O line are making those gaps. So, as far as like running backs go and guys who are really, really talented, really good, I think it's more of a team effort that you have to look at. And I think obviously last week against the Steelers, the Ravens struggled on the run game because
big
the
time.
Steelers have such a good run defense, like they just do. And it was evident that Derrick Henry just had his worst game of the year. So you have to look at it on both sides. You can't just say, oh yeah, Saquon is just the best.
But he's really had a new lease of life with the trade to Philadelphia. I mean, he had over 300 yards from scrimmage against the Rams, and 2 massive touchdown runs of about 70 yards each. On the back of that performance, do you think that he deserves to be in the conversation for MVP at this stage?
Yeah, look, it's we all know it's mostly a quarterback conversation, and it
Mm,
always will be. But as far as that goes, yeah, I mean, you have to look at it. You have to look at him as what's he doing wrong right now? Like he's doing nothing that would. He's not dropping the ball. Like his ball security is next to again the best in the league. I was kind of saying like Aaron Jones, like another really really good running back, but like he's dropped the ball twice in the last 2 weeks, and that's just not good enough. So. As far as MVP conversations go and running backs and non quarterback positions, he has to be in that conversation.
and he's had a couple of really insane plays as well. We were talking about the backwards hurdle before we came on. I mean, that's going down as NFL Play of the Year right now at and I don't think anything's going to come close to touching that.
Yeah, no, it's that was just out of this world. Like those are plays that you can't make up.
So looking at the NFC picture now a little bit, we have the Packers on the back of their win against the 49ers. The Lions, obviously, bit of a sluggish start against the Colts, but they came out and they woke up a little bit, started roaring and put the Colts away. Eagles, obviously, they're definitely in the conversation. We're getting into December football now, obviously next week, and this is when it really starts. You're playing for keeps now. You're getting towards the business end of the season when the wins and losses really do actually start to play a role as the playoff picture begins to take shape. How do you see the NFC playoffs kind of shaking out at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, look, unless the Lions somehow start to have some sort of implosion, like they're going to be the 1 seed. Like they're like, look, as I
It's it's
said, I
it's
was
it's,
talking.
it's almost as if it's their destiny to get to the Super Bowl this year. You just feel like after the heartbreak of last year against the Niners, when everyone thought last year was the year, first playoff appearance since 1980 or something like that, something stupid. Um, and they're back now. They haven't fallen off at all, really.
No.
Jared Goff had one bad game where he threw 5 interceptions and still managed to win. You can't really. I don't think anyone. I really do think that it's Dan Campbell's destiny to get to the Super Bowl this year and win.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I do think that the Eagles have an easier schedule ahead of them compared to the Lions. Like obviously, like I said, the Lions have a lot of big NFC North matchups coming up with the Packers and the Vikings. So they're massive, massive games, and they could absolutely swing that 1 seed. I think the 1 seed right now has to be between the Eagles and the Lions.
Mm.
But the Eagles, even if they like, I'm not sure what the Eagles like what their NFC East looks like right now. But like playing the Cowboys, not a big deal. Playing
No,
the Commanders, obviously right now, not a big deal. And then obviously the Giants, you can't really. That's not even a conversation. So
it's not even a
you know,
game right now, really, is it? The
no,
Giants.
it's not. So in the end of the day, I think that the NFC picture looks like this. It's going to be either the Lions or the Eagles as the 1 seed, and like I said, if the Packers somehow beat the Lions and somehow the Vikings beat the Lions, but we're both playing them at home, like in Ford Field, so that adds another additional challenge there. So I don't know, like either way, I still think 3 teams are coming from the NFC North, and that would be a massive, massive year. Like because at the start of the year, people weren't really rating the Vikings, so like I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna feel pretty smug about myself because we're 9-2 and we're looking like we could actually have a bit of a run in the NFC
Hmm.
if we get a favorable matchup now. That's obviously to be seen, but yeah, like what do you think about the AFC side? Because like obviously you have a good.
Yeah, AFC is. I think I think it's a lot closer. I mean, obviously you have the Chiefs, and like we said earlier, you never know what they're going to do. It just depends on what version shows up, and they have been winning by the skin of their teeth this year a lot. I'm glad that just going back to the Carolina game yesterday, I'm glad that the refs did throw those flags for PI and Thielen, because if they hadn't,
Yeah,
I think there would have been ructions, and all the rumors about favorable treatment for Patrick Mahomes would have proved to be true. The Steelers were a contender and still are a contender. They've half a game lead on the Ravens still in the AFC North, but concerning performance against the Browns, obviously on Thursday night in the snow. Can't blame
I
the
don't know if you can
conditions.
look
Just
into that though.
didn't play good
I
enough. Just the massive trap game. I mean, we played down. Won the turnover battle. 3-1 differential there. Didn't really capitalize on it, and just a
No,
couple
but
of
not to cut you off there, but I just think that all of the divisional games, like those games are so difficult, no matter
mm,
what way you look at it. It doesn't matter if a team is 1-8 and the other team is 8-1. It does not matter. Those games are always dogfights,
yeah.
and with just that kind of energy that Jameis Winston has, it's like you can't really say like, oh, it was a bad loss. I don't think it was a bad loss for the Steelers. I think it was just an unfortunate game that you still should have won. Like in the end of the day, like
No,
with the way.
it's not a massive loss, but it does make the AFC North picture a little bit more tricky now. Because you never know. I mean, Cleveland, Cincinnati could come out next weekend and absolutely shellac us. It just depends on what
Is
version
that
of
one
that
in
offense.
Cincinnati?
That's in Cincinnati. Yeah,
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that could be rough.
that could
Like,
be
look,
bad.
I don't want that to happen to you, but look, in the end of the day, I think that Burrows is a really good quarterback, and
Yeah.
it could open up some big holes. Which again, not a problem. I don't think that there's any issue here with being shown where the gaps are right now, because you still have time to fix it. You still have time to get it right for the playoffs, and
Mm.
that's ultimately we're like us as Steelers and Vikings fans. I think we're in a really good spot because I don't think unless we both absolutely go like defeated for the rest of the season, I don't think that there's a way that we don't make the playoffs. And
No, the Steelers
that's
will
a,
definitely make the playoffs. Look, top three seeds at this stage, I think, are going to be Buffalo, Kansas City, Pittsburgh. I think the Dolphins could actually get back into the playoffs the way they're playing. I mean, they absolutely destroyed the Patriots on Sunday, and if Tua Tagovailoa can stay healthy and keep playing the way that he's playing, they could definitely get in.
they do play the
Balt
Packers this Thursday on Thanksgiving though, so like
is
that's
that
that's
going to
a
be is that going to be in Green Bay or in Miami?
that that one's in Green Bay.
That'll be tough. That'll be tough.
You
Warm weather
know,
teams do not enjoy playing in the cold, especially later
not
in
this
the
time of
year.
year. Yeah,
Baltimore, look, definitely going to be in playoff consideration and contention. The Steelers, we're in the middle of that tough stretch now, and I think every win is going to matter, considering when we still have to play Cincinnati twice. First of which is this weekend. We still have to go to Philadelphia, to Baltimore, and then the one we all have circled on our calendars is Christmas Day against the Chiefs. That could be a mini Super Bowl. Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it just depends on the way the schedule goes. Um, But look, the AFC, it is. I don't think it's as clear cut as the NFC at the minute.
No, it certainly is not. But like me personally, I think it's the Bills to kind of lose at the moment.
Yeah,
Like I really think it is. But like, look, I think I just alluded to it not too long ago, but I don't think that the Eagles are that very far away from the Lions. And again, they have an easier schedule until the end of the season. So look, if the Lions do end up coming out as the 1 seed, there is nobody on this planet that can say that they didn't deserve it, because the games that they've played, the teams that they've played, and the way they've been playing has been absolutely unmatched. They've made teams look like junior varsity teams. Like, it's been absolutely insane. Like they've gone over 50 points in 2 games this year.
yeah, yeah.
And that's just unheard
Madness.
of.
Looking ahead now to week 13 and some of the big fixtures, obviously tonight, at the time of recording, it is Monday Night Football, the Harbaugh Chargers Ravens, first time that the Harbaugh brothers have faced each other since the Super Bowl between the Ravens and the Niners. With that 2020, oh no, 2020, 2017. I think that might have been, that was the year of the blackout anyway.
Oh, that is right. Yeah.
Yeah, the year of the blackout. So that's definitely going to be an interesting one to see how that shakes out tomorrow morning, and then obviously a big week of football, Thanksgiving football, 2 games on Thursday, 2 games Thursday daytime, 1 game Packers Dolphins Thursday night / Friday morning here. Black Friday football, Chiefs Raiders. This is going to be before Gardner Minshew broke his collarbone last night. I had this penciled as an interesting game, but now, depending on who the Raiders start at quarterback, either be it Desmond Ridder or Daniel Jones, could well end up in Las Vegas
Yeah,
for this game.
Twist would call it. Twist said it.
Yeah,
Yeah, like he said it late last night. Once that news was broke, I mean, I think that could be a really interesting
that could be
pickup. If
very, very interesting. But as far as I'm concerned, that's the Chiefs game. That's the Chiefs all over in that one.
Although,
And then
yeah, but no, I will say this though: the Raiders tend to play quite well on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Like I seen them against the Cowboys in Dallas. What was it, 3 years ago? And they absolutely slapped the Cowboys around the place. So they tend to play well in these kind of window
big
games
games.
where they, yeah, I don't. And again, look, the Panthers put it up to them. And I don't think that the Panthers and the Raiders are too far out of line of where both of their seasons are at.
And it could be an interesting reclamation project for Daniel Jones to go to the desert and see a fresh start might do in the world.
You have a different O line, you have a different setup, you have a different system, you have a different coach that may believe in you a bit more, because Brian Table clearly didn't believe in him.
No,
so I think it's for his own career. I think this will be huge. It could really set him apart.
Could really be. And then some of the standout games, we were just chatting about this, having a look before we came on. Steelers Bengals, obviously from my perspective, is interesting. Vikings Cardinals for you. Cardinals had a tough loss against the Seahawks. That should be it just depends what version of Kyler Murray shows up, really. And if he can,
well, we're coming home to US Bank as well after 3 games on the road, so it'll be a loud house in there. So I don't see that going any other way than a Vikings win.
And then Sunday afternoon, afternoon US time, 9:25 here. Ravens Eagles. That's going to be a massive game. That's the Eagles are away. That's a Ravens home game. Two of the best quarterbacks in the league, two of the best running backs in the league, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. That's going to be a great game. I'm glad the Steelers game is early, because I think every NFL fan should watch the Ravens and Eagles this weekend.
Yeah, no, that's going to be like, even looking at it I'm looking at all the other games right now. There's nothing that even comes close to that game. That's a potential Super Bowl game. Like, it really is.
It's a real potential Super Bowl preview.
And I don't want to. I would not want to face the Eagles. I personally, unless for the Vikings, if it came down to it, like, yeah, a NFC Championship game, you might have to play them. But they're one team I would not want to face in the playoffs at this point.
It's definitely going to be a great game. And then rounding that out, next Monday night is the Bills and the Niners. Niners might be able to bounce back, but unlikely against the Bills the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, if Brock is out again this week, it's just gonna make life even harder for the 49ers. So yeah, look, and I think the Bills run on a bye week this week, so they'll be rested up, they'll be ready to
They'll be
go. So
fresh.
yeah, so I do feel for the 49ers because they had so much potential and there was a lot of talk this like at the start of the year as like, is this the year that they have to do it? And I think that maybe that might have gotten some of their heads a little bit, but like they've just been absolutely crippled by injuries all year.
It's almost like the last dance with the Niners, isn't it? Because I don't see all those pieces coming back last year, and you could see how next year, and you could see how rusty Christian McCaffrey was as well. I mean, that fumble was absolutely like so like
Yeah, yeah.
killer.
Yesterday
You
was a
can't
bad day for him.
you just can't do that. But I mean, I don't see a scenario where they extended Brandon Ayuk and then he had that unfortunate knee injury. But George Kittle, I think, deserves to be paid like a top talent, which he is, a top tight end slash wide receiver. He's just phenomenal. Debo is going to want to get paid. I don't think they can keep all the pieces to have another deep run like they have previously.
Like not that this will happen, but I could see the George Kittle going to a team like the Chargers. Like I could see
That would
that
be
move
interesting.
being made because I know he wants to stay out he wants to stay at West Coast. So like that's where his family is at. That's where like his whole lifestyle is, and I just don't see another good option because like outside of that setup that he has there, like why would you go anywhere else?
Yeah,
I just don't see and like with Harbaugh there, with the way that
Herbert.
what's it, Justin Herbert's playing right now is like, why would you not want to play for him? Why would you not want
Yeah.
to play for that system? So, I think Kyle Shanahan's time, maybe he just might have that whole Batman quote. It's like, are you gonna live long enough to see yourself become the villain? I think he's becoming the villain a little bit there,
Either
and
die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
exactly, and I think that last year might have been the year for him to step away. And like obviously
Yeah.
that's in hindsight, we're saying that now, but it's like, like they've just like look, they've been hampered by injuries, and what can you do about that? Like
Well, definitely another big weekend of NFL action ahead of us in week 13. The first weekend of December football is the business end of the season. Just shout out again to everyone who came down to our watch party last night in Drogheda. Really great to see all the guys there. Jack and Sean, if you are listening, thanks for coming down, especially. We will have more events to look forward to in the future. We might do a wee Super Bowl party. We might even do something for the playoffs. So keep an eye on our socials for all of that information at Gaelic Gridiron. The full complement of presenters should hopefully be back next week if Twist hasn't been ravaged by the RSV virus. Kev, always a pleasure talking football with you, man. Take care. We'll talk soon.
yeah, see you next week.